Good evening, everybody. Let me add my special guest. There he is. Good evening, Atlantic City. This is another wonderful Friday, the end of the month. Um, Everything has been incredibly wonderful. Getting ready for, we just finished with our wonderful African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey Certificate of Completion. Was awarded to all of our graduates of the Atlantic City Small Business Academy, May 28th. That was yesterday. A big shout out to all of the local Atlantic City entrepreneurs that participated in the wonderful Atlantic City Business Academy. Some new entrepreneurs growing out there. Thank you, Mayor Marty Small Sr. Thank you, Pam Fields, Carmen Gates, Joe Melano, and Bruce Weeks for your extraordinary due diligence to make that happen. I really enjoyed being a part of it. I participated in it as a senior citizen entrepreneur, like our special guest. And I did it for Exhale Cosmetics, commitment I made to my sister Valerie and my granddaughter. We're going to get that off the ground again. So I said, let me participate in this program and learn something, because I think Einstein was in his 90s or something when he said that he was still a student. You're never too old to learn. But we have a very special guest, a dear friend of mine's, and now a retired Atlantic City government employee and a confidant and fearless supporter of the Honorable Mayor Marty Small Senior for many years. And before I introduce Mr. Clinton Walden, I wanted to give a shout out so everybody already know that tomorrow is the incredible gala party for the Honorable Mayor Marty Small Sr. at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City. The gala starts from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's going to be a fabulous black tie, dress to impress, sit-down dinner, entertainment, dancing. I got my ticket already, and you can go to the website of, I tell you what, if you want to get a ticket, you can call, club, this and that, 609. That's for I'll post this on my, I keep on posting it online, but I just want to remind everybody, get your tickets, make your reservations for the 2026 Atlantic City Inaugural Gala, celebrating Honorable Mayor Marty Small Sr.'s reelection and his extraordinary leadership in the city. Now, with that said, my special guest, please welcome my dear friend and dear friend to many, Mr. Clinton Walden. Clinton Walden, say hello to Atlantic County and Atlantic City and all the Atlantic Coastal sister cities, brother.
First, let me say good evening to you and good evening to Atlantic City, all of Atlantic County, and all of our Atlantic coastal community leaders and residents. And it's an honor and a pleasure, Jimmy, to and you and I chop it up and have a discussion.
Thank you. Then to get started, I want you to give some of your historical background, not all the way back to George Washington time, but start when you were an Eagle. I don't know if a lot of people know you used to be a Philadelphia Eagle. Can you give a little background about Clint Walden, please?
Well, that wasn't long enough to be considered to be one. That was I got drafted out of college as a free agent, and went into camp, and unlike what a lot of fans realize about professional sports, is that it's not always about who's the most talented. It's a lot of politics, as in every other thing in our lives, and then also it has a lot to do with the institution that you come from, and who in the front office of those organizations have relationships. I came from the oldest Black college and university in the country, which at the time was Cheney State College, but now Cheney University. And we didn't have multi-million-dollar public relations budget, to compare to an Ohio State or a Notre Dame or a USC, And so I went in, and I did well. And so I proved to myself that it was someplace that I knew that I belonged, but it just wasn't in the cards at that time. And I'll never forget when Coach Vermeil brought me in, and talked to me to let me know, that I wasn't going to be retained, and I'd be released. And he asked me if it was any place else that the organization, could reach out to. In my heart of hearts, and as a fan, unfortunately, even though I'm here in New Jersey, born and raised in Atlantic City, I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And so there's only been two teams, professional football teams, that I was a fan of. My first was the Kansas City Chiefs, because I was a Willie Lanier fan. And Willie Lanier was the first Black middle linebacker in professional football, who graduated from Morgan State. And so I've always been an AFC fan, because they were the part of the NFL that drafted from Black colleges and universities. And so that diversity into the NFL came about through the AFC.
So where did that take you on the journey? 'Cause I know after that, the journey that you left there and you did this. Well, you grew up on what street in Atlantic City and went to Louisiana?
Born and raised in Atlantic City, New Jersey, 215 North Tennessee Avenue, which was a poor working class neighborhood, but it was a great childhood, and a great village at that time. And I went to the public schools, Indiana Avenue School, and in which our first Black mayor, James L. Usry, was my principal at Indiana Avenue School. So I've known him ever since I was 5 years old.
Wow.
Okay. And went on junior high school at Chelsea Junior High, and then high school at Atlantic City High, and graduated in the class of 1974. But, growing up in Atlantic City, I always had a love and a commitment for Atlantic City, and especially the north side area of Atlantic City. And so at that time growing up, we were self-sufficient. We had everything that we needed. We had the businesses, we had entertainment, we had other institutions, we had the support services from within, because at my time growing up in Atlantic City was a very segregated city. And so there had always been challenges. And then you had an area in Atlantic City known as the North Side, which was the area that since the 1940s redlining map,
Mm,
denied access to capital and capital investment in a wide area in Atlantic City.
mm-hmm,
And still to this day, that area suffers as a result of that. And so growing up and seeing the positive things as well as seeing the challenging situations. The one thing that my parents instilled in me um, was to always do my best
mm-hmm,
in any and everything that I did, um, to do it with grace and honor, um, that your name and your reputation is all that you have. And you should do everything that you can in order not to tarnish that. Uh,
mm-hmm,
and I live by that every day, still to this point. And I recognize and know that I'm Willie and Christine Walden's family ambassador. You
mm-hmm,
know, I'm the last person remaining alive in my immediate family,
mm,
and I carry my loved ones with me every day. And the only
mm,
thing that I ever wanted my parents to be was to be proud of the sacrifices that they made to provide me with the opportunities to pursue my education, pursue my dreams, and to be a productive citizen and a person, and more importantly, a stand up and respectable man in life. And that's what I've tried to carry myself to be, Jimmy.
Well, you should do that. And, speaking of that, during your time in the government, you were very involved with planning and development. And you have a perspective about Atlantic City that a lot of folks don't have because you've been in the nuts and the bolts of it. And you know that we have been on a mission to use cybersecurity to try to help change the economic paradigm of Atlantic City by creating a new workforce that will attract new industry. And you said some remarkable things the other day. I'd like to hear you talk about how do you think cybersecurity can have an impact, why you think it should have an impact. Give me your perspective of cybersecurity and the things we're doing with cybersecurity based on our discussion we had the other day. It was a short
So,
discussion, but a profound view.
sure. You know that I support your efforts and your leadership in bringing that about in Atlantic City. Um, you were diligent, you were committed to it, and it took a while before it caught up into this area. You were like premature when you were promoting it, trying to bring it into the forefront. Um, but everything in life, Jimmy, is about universal timing. You know,
Mm-hmm,
it wasn't its time. And in order for you as a person to get to the point of where you are now and with that program, you
mm-hmm,
had to go through all of those things that occurred. You know, our steps in our lives, our life's journey or our life's paths, that they're already laid for us, you
mm-hmm,
know. And a lot of times we think that we have to be the ones in order to materialize and make things happen for us. You know, we have these big grandiose plans, and we're navigating ourselves. That's what we believe, throughout life. But it's all about what you're preparing to do,
mm,
uh, and what you put out in the universe. That's what is going to happen and materialize. And so, as it pertains to cybersecurity,
mm-hmm,
in the bigger picture of Atlantic City, we have to diversify the economy in Atlantic City. We can't, and we've seen the results of that, where you are a one horse industry, because we saw what happened when we lost five casinos when they went out of business. and you take each casino that had an employee population of about 3,500 per facility, and then you multiply that times 5, and you see how many people were out of work and out of a job. So that sizable impact on individuals and families. And then when we take and expand it to the whole entire city and then the region, homeowners. So out of all of those employees, they own homes. If they can't find comparable economic employment to match the what they were making on those, then that's 50% of a household income that goes away. Mortgage, what's going to happen? Then the bank or the mortgage company is going to foreclose on your home. And once that happens, it becomes a domino effect in the community, because let's say 50% of those employees had school-age children that were in the school system. Now those parents can no longer remain in that household, so now they have to move. So let's say they had to move out of the community, the county, or the municipality where they were living. So now those children are removed from those schools. And then the funding that goes to those schools are based upon the socioeconomic status and the total populations of the students that are there. And so when those students now are no longer there, now those schools can't enjoy those funds. And when that happens, they're going to have to cut back on services, programs, and staff. And so now you see that domino effect occur, okay, which put our region as being the #1 city, which was Atlantic City at that time, and the #1 region, which was Atlantic County, having the highest percentages of property foreclosures in the nation.
Wow.
Okay. And we were able to rebound and recover from that. But everybody took a hit. And so having to diversify our economy, we need more businesses, more different fields of business and careers available, so that if one industry suffers a loss, it isn't a big loss. Like 5 casinos with 3,500 employees plus. And so when we look at small business development, which Atlantic City, because of the Small Business Academy, and let me congratulate you and all of the other Mayor Small Business Academy graduates, we're constantly, and that's what our focus was on, constantly developing small businesses, because small business is the economic engine of this country. It's not major corporations. It's small businesses. And then when we look at our tax base is made up of property owners, business owners, and property owners, business owners, and oh God, the third one is escaping me. Homeowners, homeowners, business owners, and property owners. And so that's what makes up our tax base. And so we have to be able to expand that base so that we can spread out the debt service that is obtained through taxes amongst a broader field than a narrow field where now you have a smaller number and they have a greater responsibility. And so that's where cybersecurity in the region, in Atlantic City, it's truly something that is warranted, because it creates another career field, another business field. And you can't tell me one entity, whether it's a household, a business, institutions such as a school, university, hospital, they have to have cybersecurity.
Have to.
As long as we carry these devices,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
laptops, desktops, we have to be secured. And
Yes.
the only way that we're going to be secured in this volume of data that's exchanged 24 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
every second
Mm-hmm.
on the hour, it
Mm-hmm.
has to be protected. And that protection comes through cybersecurity.
You know, you and Jim Allen, the chairman of Hard Rock, he did a video, I think just the other day, and he was talking about how when Hard Rock and the other casinos open up north,
Mhm.
in North Jersey and in New York, it's going to suck some of the air out of Atlantic City.
A lot of air.
He said, you know, they're right now the casinos are doing fine and they're going to do better during the summertime because people coming in for the beach, etc. He said, but when the winter time comes, who's going to drive 2 hours in the winter to come to a casino in Atlantic City when they can drive 2 blocks to their casino up north, right? So, as you were just saying, creating a diversity in the industry locally, it's not something that's a pipe dream or something that we can just wish for. It's a
It's a
necessity.
necessity. It's a necessity.
It's a necessity.
Absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
a lot of the support you have given our efforts over the years, I know a lot of the support that the mayor has given us over the years, and other individuals and organizations, including the Jewish Family Services Organization and others. Everybody has supported what we've been talking about because they see it's a necessity to create some new opportunity here. But before you can create or attract the new opportunity, you got to train the local workforce.
The workforce. Absolutely.
What's your thoughts on that? You know, because we've been through it a couple of times. What's your
Yes.
thoughts on training Atlantic City's local workforce?
Our local workforce has to expand in their training and become more diverse, because when you look at entities that have an interest of possibly locating in an area, a region, a municipality, or a state, they're doing their due diligence first. And through that due diligence is looking at the area, looking at, what are some of the amenities that are there? How close are they to highway infrastructure? What's the transportation situation look like? But more importantly, they're looking at what is the overall status of the workforce.
Hmm.
What is their educational level? What is the highest training that they have obtained? And so that's where you providing this tremendous opportunity for Atlantic City residents in order to obtain training through cybersecurity um, is tremendous, because it's going to assist and help put them at a completely different economic level.
Hmm.
And when your economics are different, you have more opportunities.
Hmm.
When your educational sphere is expanded, you have a whole lot more opportunities available to you.
Hmm.
When that field is constrained and narrow, now you have limited economic opportunities to you. And when you have limited economic opportunities to you, then you tend to start to believe that your life is, I don't want to say a failure, but I don't see any way out of this. And when that comes into the forefront, then you start trying to be creative in trying to supplement that loss that you don't have. And a lot of times that will lead you down the wrong avenue. And that those decisions that you make in order to try to provide some creative supplemental income can lead you somewhere that you don't want to be, that can mar your record for the rest of your life. This cybersecurity training for individuals, first off, number one, it didn't cost individuals a dime.
Right.
And so where can you go obtain this for free as to what the RX5 cybersecurity is providing? I mean, this is tremendous. So there's no excuse. It's there. You can't say that cost is a factor if something is free. And so it's all about what are you willing to do in order to change your conditions and change your life. All you have to do is commit yourself and run the process. And I assure you, when people think that they don't have time, if they take and quantify what they do in a 24-hour cycle, they will see how much time that they're wasting that they could invest in themselves. If you can't see that you can invest 4 hours in yourself 3 days a week, something is wrong. So, you can't blame anyone else. It's all about what do you desire? What do you want to do with your life? And here's a tremendous opportunity. And again, the income that you're able to generate just from the beginning, but staying within it and graduating to the other certifications, can push you in the six-figure bracket. Okay? And so the opportunities are there, but this is a tremendous plus for the city of Atlantic City and for the region. And something that you and I talked about, as you were trudging along the path with this thing, was in order to make Atlantic City the hub of the East Coast. That's not far-fetched, that's not far-fetched at all. And just look at what we have within the region that needs to be protected. These tremendous cash cows of the state of New Jersey, which are in the form of casino hotels. Okay. What would happen if they had a security breach with everything that they deal with in a 24-hour basis?
Absolutely.
Our hospitals that are here.
Yes.
What would happen if they had a security breach that now jeopardized their patients as well as their staff, and their other supportive services?
Absolutely.
You got the FAA Technical Center, that's here in the region, and how important that is for the region. And the 144 Fighter Squadron, what their purpose is in the global sphere.
National security.
Of national security.
Absolutely.
Okay? And then we look at all of our other businesses, all of our municipal governments, our county government, our school boards, okay? All of this data and our businesses that are here. What would happen with a tremendous security breach in their systems? Look at our municipal utilities authority to be able to protect our water source. What would happen if they had a tremendous security breach? Look at Atlantic Electric, South Jersey Gas. We can go on and on as to why cybersecurity and cybersecurity training is so vitally important for the city and for the region.
You said all of that so profoundly, and the reason why we're having this discussion, I typed it yesterday, what you said. Yesterday, you said cybersecurity and AI workforce training and RX5 cybersecurity apprenticeships will help re-engineer and change Atlantic City and its Atlantic coastal sister cities' economic paradigm and economic future.
Absolutely.
And the way you just put it, so it's you took a
Absolutely.
very complicated subject and you made it very simple when you broke it down to how it will impact not just the casinos, but the medical industry and the boom, the municipality, water.
Everything. 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 You know, and that's the thing about information, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we're trying to educate our community and educate our residents, um, it's about being able to make it understandable for every level. You
Mm-hmm.
can't talk above people with these complex intellectual terms.
Right.
We have to understand what our audience, who our audience is, and how can we deliver the information that makes it digestible for them. But it's no different than anything that you're looking to sell.
Mm.
You have to be able to sell what the benefit is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what product it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It could be this pen.
Right.
And I'm saying that, Jimmy Whitehead, you need this pen.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying, well, what do I need this pen for? How's it going to benefit me? I got to be able to sell you what the benefits are going to be, how it's going to impact you, how it's going to affect you. And then once you see what the impact and how it's going to affect me,
Mm-hmm.
now you look at this pen different than just a writing instrument.
Yeah.
It becomes more than that. Okay. So that's what we have to always be able to deliver to an audience. What is going to be the benefit? Okay. And I think having these types of discussions,
Uh-huh.
you being committed to this power hour, because every time that you do this, you keep selling, you keep reinforcing, you keep educating, and you keep providing an opportunity for people to learn more than what they already have.
Mm-hmm.
And so this commitment that you have, it's immeasurable, Jimmy. You know, and I commend you. You know, because irregardless of what a handful of naysayers may have said, you know, over the course of this journey, you didn't let it deter you. And look at what happened. You look at the support that you brought on from Congressman Jeff Andrew and the support there, and the support from, you know, our other legislators at the state, the county, and the municipal level, you know, who now see what you saw and the importance of diversifying the economy, you know, in this region, so that it continues on beyond seasonal. You said something earlier when you mentioned the possible threat of North Jersey, you know, having casinos and the impact that it will make in Atlantic City.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that's never going to change about shore communities, and Atlantic City being one of them,
Mm-hmm.
is that we've always been seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
From Memorial Day
Right.
to Labor Day.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And what Atlantic City created over the early history, they came up with a way to be able to expand Labor Day. And you know what that tool was? It was the Miss America pageant.
Mm-hmm.
So when they created the Miss America pageant, and that was done through local business people to try to be able to extend the tourism season beyond Labor Day. They brought about the Miss America pageant to try to give an extension. Okay. Because those of us who were born and raised in Atlantic City, especially at the time when I was born, 1955, and beyond that, it was 6 months of feast and 6 months of famine. Okay, because when the wintertime came around, then all of your original hotels and those major tourism, they all had to cut back on staff. Why? Because you didn't have the visitor numbers to be able to support that. Okay, and so they laid people off, and people collected unemployment, or they developed another supportive means in order to supplement that income that they lost for those other 6 months. So we've been accustomed to developing some additional hustle to be able to survive and to keep ourselves alive. You know, my father, for instance, um, in my early childhood, he drove tractors and trailers. And then he stopped over the road, and he did it locally with a local company, which was back in those days, they called them junkyards. Today, they call them recycling centers. Okay. And so there was a company that my father worked for, which was Snyder's. And when they collected tons of metals, then my father drove the tractors and trailers with that tonnage and took it to the larger facilities to be able to recycle those metal materials to be able to make products. Okay. And so my father's supplemental income was that he did the same thing on a smaller scale. So he had a truck, and then we would ride around, and when we saw aluminum cans and copper and brass, and in my early childhood, they recycled cotton, so rags, clothing, because it was all cotton material that could be recycled and make new clothes. Today, most of the clothing is synthetic material, polyesters. Okay, but cottons could be recycled, and then you recycle paper, newspapers, and all of that. So we would collect all of that, and then when he would get a certain weight, since he knew the locations because he did it on the larger scale, then we would drive the truck and take them, and then that's how my father supplemented the household income by having that hustle on his own.
You know, there was an entrepreneur, a legendary guy down in D.C. named Duke Green, and Duke made millions of dollars when the 8A program was out. The 8A, because he was a government contractor. But he used to tell me about the stories before he became a big, successful government contractor with the Department of Defense. He used to come up to Atlantic City to create a hustle, right? And what his hustle was, he would go around to all of the hotels, and he had some kind of thing worked out with the people that clean the rooms, that they would give him the leftover soap that was in each one of the people's room. You take a shower and you just use the soap.
And the soap dish.
The soap dish, right? That he would take all this used soap to another place and melt it down and make
new soap.
New soap.
Absolutely.
And resell it.
Correct.
So back then, as your father had to have his side hustle, as we say, it was just the economics of the time. And now, with us being in this new generation of data, as you say, which we never knew 20, 30 years ago that word data was going to be so powerful.
Absolutely.
Because you and I remember when data was just, you sit down at those little machines that had the little cards with the holes in them, or a magnetic card in the typewriter, which people don't use anymore. And that was data information. We never knew that when they were paying people money to say, send your video clips in, send your information.
Content.
They were collecting all this data to create this either extraordinary or monstrosity of a thing called AI and everything else, which I love it.
The repository.
Right. Depository.
the repository.
Repository.
Yes,
That, and here we are, you and I, we are engaged in it in our small little way right now that we're gonna grow.
absolutely.
But like you said, it's the kind of thing that Atlantic City needs to re-engineer itself.
But all of this is replicating the the tremendous computer that everybody has. And what is that? It's your brain.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Look at all the data that your brain processes
Mm-hmm.
in a 24-hour period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all of the systems that it has control over. Your nervous system,
Right.
your blood system,
Right.
okay? Your cardiovascular system, okay? That's just the systems in the body.
Right.
But everything that you're taking in through your eyes and your ears,
Mm-hmm.
that data that's
Mm-hmm.
being processed in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to replicate this into a mechanical
Yeah.
system or device,
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Okay. This does it without any thought.
Right.
And so that's why this is being studied so much and now is being replicated into a device, because you and I are old enough to know that we came out of an era, because everything is so visual now.
Mm-hmm.
We're the last link to radio
Mm-hmm.
before TV.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you sat around with your father or your grandfather and you listened to the baseball game
Mm-hmm.
on the radio,
Right.
and then they had a little transistor radio
Mm-hmm.
with a little 9-volt battery
Right.
to listen to the game.
Right.
And then TV came in, which was a black and white TV
Mm-hmm.
that had rabbit ears, the antenna on top of the TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that antenna transferred to going on top of the rooftop
Yeah.
of the house.
Right.
And then that was changed to having cable.
Mm-hmm.
And then a whole city and a whole region had to have cable installed in order to transfer that data through the cable line
Mm-hmm.
to your receiver to come out through your television.
Yes.
Okay. So we've seen all of the greatest technological advances
Mm-hmm.
in our 70 years, your
Mhm.
69 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's been the greatest advances in the history of this nation.
Mm-hmm.
We've lived through that. We've lived through going from the 78, the 33, the 45, playing records,
Mm-hmm.
the reel to reel, the 8-track, the cassette, the CD, the
Mm-hmm.
DVD, the
Mm-hmm.
MP3, the MP4, streaming. Okay. We've lived through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We've lived through computers being a whole building, and now computer, we're walking around with them every day in our pockets.
Amen.
Okay. So this is why the RX5 Cyber Guardian, the cybersecurity,
Mm-hmm.
why it's so necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Because these technological advances, they're
Yeah.
not going to go away.
Right.
They're just going to keep
Keep getting bigger.
enhancing
Right.
and growing.
Right.
Okay. So this is forever. And that's why it's important for our region to be able to embrace this and then be able to build upon this. And yes, to move us to the point where we become that hub on the entire East Coast, from Florida
Mm-hmm.
to Maine.
Mm-hmm. From the Seneca and Niagara to the Lumbee Tribal Nation in North Carolina.
Absolutely.
connecting to Atlantic City, our Atlantic coastal areas. I'm gonna tell you what made me get into this. I was working with some guys, some Navy SEAL guys we were doing some stuff with Oman and with some intelligence guys, and they started talking about terrorism attacking America's electric grid, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And when they talked about it, I'm listening and I'm saying, wait a minute. So if I'm in Atlantic City
Hmm.
and they attack the electric grid, the enemies, whether it's Russia, China, whoever it is,
Whoever.
a terrorist, right? In amongst
Domestic.
right, domestic terrorists. That means not only can we not use electricity or cook food or get gasoline for our car or flush our toilet, that also means that I won't be able to reach my son or my daughter for the rest of my life.
Correct.
Because if everything went down,
Right.
an attack in America,
Right.
not going to be restored for at least 20 years or 10 years, or
Hmm.
it could be years.
Hmm.
And in the chaos of it all, it's going to be horrible.
Hmm.
And how am I going to get to Maryland and DC if I can't get gas
Hmm.
and I can't use the restroom? I can't get no food.
Hmm.
So that means I wouldn't see my son or daughter again, or my grandchildren. So that's what made me get interested in cybersecurity.
And we had that precursor,
Yes, we did.
which was COVID-19,
Yes, we did,
when the
brother.
whole world was shut down.
Right,
Okay. And it wasn't a domestic or foreign terrorist.
right.
It was a germ. It
Mm-hmm.
was a virus
A
that you
virus.
couldn't see.
Right.
Okay. That it shut the whole country
The
down,
world. The
the
world.
world down. Okay.
Yes.
That it shut it down. And so you couldn't move about freely. You couldn't go see your son, your daughter, your
Right.
grandson.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Because we didn't want to be exposed.
Right.
And we didn't want to expose ourselves on somebody else.
And that's something.
Just reflect back on all of the changes that we went through,
Yes.
from going to the supermarket and wiping all your items down that you purchased before you brought them in the house.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
all of the, and wearing a mask,
Mm.
and all of those things that we went through during that period of time. You would think, Jimmy, that we would have learned something or some things for that. And everybody just kept uttering the same words over and over again. I can't wait till we get back to normalcy. I can't wait till things are back to normal.
Mm.
Normal is what got us to where we were.
Mm.
Okay. And so we have gotten real lax,
Mm-hmm.
because as long as that threat was there,
Mm.
we were more open to being able to see how we could do things in order to better the quality of life for everybody. And then soon as your individual quality of life no longer was threatened, then a lot of people resumed back to exactly how they were before. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what lesson did we learn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
And it hasn't gone away.
Mm.
It just isn't at the level of where it was before. And now you have another threat again, which is another joke when they're talking about Ebola.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when we only believe that where we live, that's all that we need to be concerned about, we're just one participle of the whole piece.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole piece being planet Earth.
Mm.
We're all responsible. And that what you do here will affect Jimmy Whitehead there. And what Jimmy Whitehead does there is going to affect others in another area. Just because you're not in close proximity, then you tend to believe that what I do here has no effect on any place else. But we're all interconnected. Just like the hand, It's connected to the wrist,
Mm,
connected to the arm,
mm,
to the chest, to the whole entire body. They all work all harmoniously together in synergy.
mm. Yes.
Okay. This belief that you could treat each one separately by each professional, he's a professional specialist for the eyes. But he doesn't know if the eyes are affected, that's going to affect the rest of the body
Right. Right.
as well.
Right.
Okay. So get to Jimmy, and it's honing this inside. And this also
Mm,
correlates to the 5 cities that you brought together. Okay.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Why? We have to work collectively together
mm,
because we're all in this soup and
mm,
we're all in this bowl together.
mm-hmm.
And if we're all going to achieve and rise, then we all have to have that game plan and that goal for all of us to be able to succeed. Not you succeed and I suffer. We all have to have that commonality that we want to see everyone succeed.
That segues for the last 10 minutes. I'm gonna ask you this, because that just perfectly takes us to this last question. Because you're talking about how you have to lift folks up in the community. And you talked about COVID, how that devastated a lot of norms, particularly kids' education, missing school for a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lady that in Washington, D.C., she's a tutor and mentor for kids in school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with her recently, and I was astounded that she said there are a lot of children graduating from high school who cannot read. And I was like, how can you graduate from high school if you can't just read basics?
Correct.
So give me your thoughts on where we are with the education of particularly our urban youth, because that's the ones that's getting hurt, I
Absolutely.
think, the most in a lot of our communities. What's your thoughts on the state of education for our young people today?
When you and I were growing up at the time and the era that we did, education was emphatically emphasized and required of you because our grandparents, some of our parents, our great grandparents, they were denied educational opportunities. And coming out of the South with the forced enslavement and then the abolition of slavery
Mm-hmm.
and then the institution of Jim Crow,
Mm-hmm.
the agricultural calendar dictated the educational calendar because the individuals, the youth who were required to be in the fields picking cotton and tobacco and what have you, that school calendar functioned off of that agricultural calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And so those of our ancestors who didn't have that, they emphasized it and they demanded it from us. They sacrificed being without it in order for us to be able to obtain it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're constantly fighting still to this day because of the lack and the limited resources that are being provided into urban cities and the attack on public schools. I'm a proud product of the public school system in Atlantic City.
Mm-hmm.
When we had teachers who lived in our neighborhoods, where
Mm-hmm.
you saw Mr. Whitehead who lived 3 doors down from you, you know, that you looked up to your teacher,
Mm-hmm.
something that you strove to want to be like. And today, to not have that strong emphasis.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is the return on investment? Because you and I could sit down and we could have a 3-hour conversation about what does education actually mean in Western civilization and in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because what education is supposed to mean is bringing the best in you out, independent thinking. They
Mm-hmm.
don't teach you to think independently in the school system in this country.
Mm.
Our school systems are geared to continuously turn out an assembly line of conformists.
Mm-hmm.
And how do they force you to conform? They force you to conform through a mechanism called the grading system.
Mm-hmm.
When you give back the right response that I'm conditioning you in order to render, your grades are going to be the positive carrot that's going to keep you giving those results.
Mm-hmm.
When you challenge it and you start to show that you can assess information, analyze it, see if it's applicable, and does it make sense, and you see that it doesn't, and you challenge that or you give a second thought or a second opinion,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to get grades that are going to be reflective of that because they don't want that type of behavior from you. Okay. And so we have to do a better job. We have to do things different because our educational systems are based on a 1940s model, 30s, 40s model. And here we are, we're talking about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Okay. And then look at vocational training that used to be strongly
Yeah.
emphasized in the
Yeah.
educational system.
I remember.
And then when it changed, where it was anti-vocational and
Mm-hmm.
everything was geared toward college.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at 2 a.m. in the morning, if a PhD's toilet on the second floor in his house overflows, who's he looking to call? He's not looking to call another PhD. He's
Right.
looking to call a plumber.
There you go.
Okay. Who is a vocational trained student,
Mm-hmm.
vocational training
Mm-hmm.
that took a specialized skill, a vocational skill, learned that skill, and then converted that skill into a business.
Mm-hmm.
When your car isn't operating, and I don't care who Jimmy Whitehead is,
Right.
Jimmy not taking it to a social service agency.
Right.
He got to take it to a mechanic.
Gotta take it to a mechanic.
And the mechanic was what? Vocational training.
Mm-hmm. High school.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about developing and obtaining a vocational skill is
Mm-hmm.
that you can convert that into your own business. So we got to do a better job, but we got to expand more educational opportunities and a diverse educational opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
such as the RX5 cybersecurity training. Okay. We got to constantly keep building upon that because the smarter we become, the more trained, the more diversified we are, the stronger our workforce is, the better our communities are going to be, the better our state of New Jersey is going to be, the better our country is going to be, and lastly, the better our world will be.
Mm. Brother, I think you hit it on point. I would say, like, so eloquently, Jim Allen, again, it was so profound when Mr. Jim Allen, the chairman of Hard Rock, yesterday said that he didn't say it wasn't a gloom and doom statement.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, listen, the reality is this is a seasonal town,
Absolutely.
and people are not going to drive their cars 2 hours in the winter to come to Atlantic City when they got a casino 2 blocks away. So the kind of life-changing stuff you've been advocating all your life, your statement about how we got to re-engineer and use this cybersecurity platform to make it happen. You went to Cheney, the oldest African-American HBCU in America, which we plan to work with.
Correct.
I want you to have the closing statement of something inspirational to tell the folks of Atlantic City and our Atlantic coastal sister cities how we can make this a better place with cybersecurity, and then we're going to close it out.
I'm going to leave us with this, and this is my mantra every day, Jimmy. And this was my mantra for 28 and a half years of public service. My mantra is we must look to helping to improve the quality of life and change conditions for our people and our communities. It has nothing to do with the politics. It has nothing to do with the personalities. That's what it should be. We should be striving to help improve the quality of life and change conditions for our community and for our people. And I'm going to leave you with that.
Well, with that, brother, I want to thank you, Clinton Walden. Clinton. I was trying so hard not to think about that email. So Clinton Walden, my friend. Thank you, brother. I look forward to working with you in the future, and we're gonna have you back and have some more delightful, intelligent debate about things. Okay, brother? All right, man. You be
absolutely blessed. Thank you so much for having me, Jimmy. I look forward.
God bless everybody. Have a blessed weekend in the great city of Atlantic City, and make sure you get your tickets to come to Mayor Marty Small Sr.'s gala tomorrow night at Hard Rock, 8 o'clock. Get your tickets, put your tuxedo on, and put some perfume on, and show up. God bless you. God love you. Jimmy Whitehead, Power Hour. Thank you.